When I saw the Last Domino tour in Toronto in November of 2021, I was lucky enough to have a friend of mine backstage grab me a copy of the set list, which I have framed because it's such a cherished possession. It was one of the highlight of my life. And then I was completely crushed when I found like a million other people with this copy. I'll tell you the story in a sec. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Everything Phil Collins. I'm your host, Scott, and we are going to talk about the Last Domino tour today. Here's what I want to talk about in today's episode, because we have a lot to go through. We're going to talk about the stats of the tour, just a little bit of a history. I'll tell you about my show that I got to go to. The whole idea of the tour was great, and we were all super blessed to have it happen this late in everyone's career. We're going to talk about the set list. We're going to go through it. I have a copy of the set list here, and we're going to talk about how I got that copy, and I want to talk about the songs too, because the set list is really interesting. It has, there's a lot we can talk about when it comes to the set list. And then I want to talk about the future of this tour on DVD or on CD or on LP or coming to digital. We'll talk about that. Okay, so let's go over the stats really quickly. I got this from Wikipedia. I'm not a music journalist. 134,000 tickets sold, to $23.7 million in revenue. That seems low, because I thought it was like the first, or I thought it was like the second, tied for the second highest grossing tour of the year. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Nominated for a Billboard Music Award, the show was. They did 47 shows in Europe and North America, much to the chagrin of the rest of the world. Pre-sale, I don't want to get into the whole history of this because COVID messed everything up, but there was these rumors in January that they were in New York rehearsing, and then pre-sale for this eventually went on sale March 6, 2020. That's somebody in here's birthday. I won't say who. I wasn't born in 2020, if that's what you're thinking. And even as I say March 6th in 2020, you know what's going to happen in like 4 or 5 days from that point, right? Everything shuts down. And I think the tour was supposed to start in the UK in the fall. And I remember thinking in early 2020, that lined up with probably them coming to, they hadn't announced North America yet, but I thought that'll line up with winter or spring 2021 with them coming to North America. So COVID messed everything up. And I think it got delayed, certainly got delayed. In the summer, they pushed the fall dates, I think, into the next year. I think it got delayed again because COVID was pretty, pandemics, how they can be. Anyway, my show, I got to go see them in Toronto in November, and it was the first show. And I'll tell you what, I was actually incredibly fortunate to be able to see them because my show in Toronto, because Canada had much stricter restrictions than even in the UK, but certainly more in the US, my show was like one of the second or third arena general population shows that were happening in Canada. So the arenas had just opened up again for public shows. And so the show happened, and then there was another resurgence of the Omicron, and then in December, everything shut down again. So there was actually only about 2 to maybe 3 week window in Canada where they were allowing shows to happen. And luckily for me, the Last Domino fell right in that 2 week window. And I mean, it's crazy to think because they were still on tour in the US and everything was open as normal in the US. And so they had those Boston shows in December. So had they have missed those 2 Toronto dates, and obviously things didn't open up in Canada until early into 2022, like probably even February, March or April, where the arenas were back open as normal. And so there's no way they would have already finished the tour back overseas. So there's no way they would have ever come back just to do those Toronto shows. So if they had to cancel those Toronto shows because Canadian restrictions are so strict, then I would have missed this tour completely and never got to see it in Canada. So I was very thankful that the 2 Canadian dates or the 2 Toronto dates fell in that little window when we were open. So I was lucky enough to see them. It was great. I was on the floor. I actually regret the floor. Just because, I mean, most of us were standing the whole time, but the line of sight isn't that great for the floor. So you pay a lot of money. And I was at the floor at the back near the sound table. You pay a lot of money for it, but it's not really that great. Like, obviously, like if you are those rows that are kind of like facing the floor, so like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 rows up, and you're looking to your right or to your left to the stage, that's a really ideal seat. I realize as I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, it would be nice to be up by like 5 feet just so I can see over people's heads. But what was really nice was that most people were standing in the floor, and I would stand the whole time because, I mean, even songs that it feel slow, like Throwing It All Away, a lot of people sat down, and then once that song started getting going, like everybody wanted to stand up. So it was nice that everyone was standing for the most part. I think the idea of the tour was so nice. And I think there's an argument to be had about would this tour and the Not Dead Yet tour, would that kind of tarnish the legacy because Phil was sitting down and the band was a bit older. And really, the 2007 tour was phenomenal. I saw them on that tour as well. And the set list for that was just unreal. The Final Farewell tour was really good too. A really diverse set list, a little ballad heavy, but the Final Farewell tour was really good. And I got to see that as well. And so and Phil was in great health. And so those two tours were a great way to kind of end Phil Collins stadium tours and Genesis stadium tours. There's an argument for whether or not these tours with Phil sitting down, the band being older and kind of rehashing those set lists from 2007 a little bit, that maybe tarnished the legacy, but I don't feel that way at all. I would see them all the time. If they wanted to tour and they were all on life support and, you know what I mean? I would totally do that. If they picked up a residency in like a nursing home and in England, I would go there and see them. I don't care. Like to me, there is no tarnishing the legacy. I can really enjoy those memories of 2007 and the Final Farewell tour, which I think was 2004 maybe. But to really enjoy those memories and all of the memories from all the previous tours, I have no problem. I think we were all super excited to have this tour happen. The other thing that was really interesting, and I want to talk about Phil sitting down, because that was, Phil's vocals, there were moments that were rough, and I heard some of the earlier some of the UK shows that were a little bit sketchier than in America. In Canada, things started sounding a lot better. I thought it sounded great. I mean, yeah, there was some notes that he missed, but we have the technology today for him to sing into auto-tune live. Like that's not like a post-production feature. You can easily sing into it live, and you can put it on really subtly too, like a pitch correction where it's only really improving things by about 20%, which is all he really needed. And so we totally could have done that, but they didn't do that. And that's what's really interesting. So like the vocals could have been a lot better than they were if they used a bit of pitch correction, and they obviously didn't do that. And if they did, it was set to really low or it wasn't working because there were some pitchy moments. But I think that's really great because we have the technology to improve his voice and they didn't use it. So that was really cool. And so it is what it is. The sitting wasn't a huge issue. In fact, one of the things I was impressed with the most, the thing I took away the most was the screens. The screens were unreal. I don't think I'd been to an arena show in a very long time. Certainly not in this time period where HD screens had improved so much because the screens were so big. I'm not talking about the visuals. The animation, the visuals are kind of cheesy. That's not for me. I was never been really crazy about that. I just like to see the guys. I like to see their gear, the cameras to go all over. And so with Phil sitting down, they were shooting from the chest up. And so if you had poor eyesight and you were far from the stage, you probably wouldn't even notice that he was sitting down because the screens were just so engaging. And it was just so nice to see them in HD up close. You remember the old days, the screens were just like these squares on either side of the stage, and it was just these grainy lights, and they weren't very good. Well, to have these massive screens that would all change shape and show us so many different angles, I thought was awesome. Nick on tour was great. It was always great to see Daryl. I'm a huge fan of Daryl. Nick was fantastic. I would have loved to see Chester, but it's obviously very meaningful to have Nick. I think if it was anyone other than Nick and Chester, that would have been a big bummer. For me, it would have been great to see Chester. I've seen Chester many times. To have Nick play was awesome. Super great. And those moments where Phil's like spins around in the chair and looks up at his son, that's so meaningful. That's really, really dope. The other guys seemed to be having a good time too. I have a big problem with the backup singers. It just didn't feel Genesis. It didn't even feel Phil Collins. I mean, Phil Collins has way more engaging singers and they're in the front. These guys were hidden in the back. Why did they come out, during Duke's intro, like just to play the tambourine? It was like very cruise shippy. I was not loving the backup singers. They did a fine job. And there's these moments where I think it's like, Mama or No Son of Mine or Carpet Crawlers. I'd have to listen back to some recordings to hear those moments where they fill in the gaps for Phil and they go high and he kind of can stay low, or he can maybe let the line fall off and we still hear it playing. The purpose of them, I understand it was good, but just the idea of having two kind of classic backup singers, as opposed to just having like Daryl and Mike try to sing it out, or can Nick sing maybe? Like, I don't know. It just, to me, it was like, didn't feel like Genesis at all. And so they were really distracting me. I don't know if other people feel this way, if I'm just being super picky, but they were just kind of distracting me. Let's talk about the songs because, I think I was like a little bit disappointed in the set list because the 2007 set list, the Turn It On Again tour, was just perfect. It was unreal. I mean, they pulled out some tunes like Ripples that we hadn't heard in a long time. They were doing Carpet Crawlers, which I don't think they had done in a few tours. And that's because it was like re-released in 1999 as a single. They were kind of digging into the catalog a bit more. We heard all sorts of tunes. We didn't hear any of the songs that were like quasi-popular, like Illegal Alien or anything. I'm trying to think of some other examples. They didn't go too deep into We Can't Dance because they did that on the We Can't Dance tour. So it was just a really great set list in 2007. And this was just like a rehash of that. Like it was great to end in Carpet Crawlers. I would always want them to do that. But it also was like that was a really great moment in 2007. And the Duke's intro, and I mean this, I know this was changed a little bit, but that into Turn It On Again was genius. And why they never thought it to do that earlier in their career. But that was such a nice moment. So to rehash that, I don't know. I don't know where I stand because to me it was a great set list. We got to hear so many great tunes. So would I have wanted them to do something like some more deep cuts on this last tour? I know that Phil has always felt like there might be some young people or some people who have been fans their whole life who are seeing Genesis for the very first time. And he feels this way too. I know I've heard him say on his own solo shows. And it's a big pet peeve of mine that he doesn't go too deep in his catalog anymore when they play live because he knows there's people who want to hear Mama. They want to hear No Son of Mine. They want to hear songs that they've listened to all their life, Invisible Touch, Tonight Tonight, Land of Confusion, that kind of stuff. So we're going to have to hear those and they can't go too deep in the catalog to make sure that if there's anyone experiencing Genesis for the first time, that they're hearing some of those big hits, which I get. But there was stuff like Home by the Sea. Let's go through the list, okay? And I've got I'll tell you this, how I got a copy of this in a second. Bear with me, but I want to talk about the song. So, by the way, Duchess, like that obviously was a big highlight of this tour. So we have Duke into, I should have really printed off the 2007 list to compare it, but we have Duke into Turn It On Again, which, I mean, it sounds great. Like, yes, it's a kind of a rehash of I think they did Duke's End. This is Duke's End. I think the last time was kind of behind the lines a little bit into Turn It On Again. So this is a little bit different, but it's great. I love that moment, and Turn It On Again is so great. I think this time as an opener, it didn't hit very hard because Phil is like an old like lawnmower, like it needs a little bit of time to get going, or like bagpipes. Have you ever seen Phil play the bagpipes? I can show you. Well, you know how they sound pretty rough in the first couple of seconds. Well, Turn It On Again was a little bit rough in the first verse until he gets warmed up and catches the key and everything. Mama's cool. I don't feel like you can ever play that song too much. Land of Confusion, I don't need to hear that anymore, but I know a lot of people like it and they always play it early in the set. It is what it is. Home by the Sea. So here's my issue is like, Genesis has always been a dark band, darker than Phil Collins music. So we have Turn It On Again, and then you have Mama, Land of Confusion, and Home by the Sea, which are all kind of like a little bit mysterious, a little bit kind of ominous tunes. Even Land of Confusion has always been sort of ominous. And so, you kind of have these songs in these minor keys, like kind of essentially the first three songs after Turn It On Again. And so I would have changed that up a little bit. I would have kept it a little bit light, especially after a pandemic. I would have maybe like opened with some kind of more fun tunes. I don't know what that would be. I don't know what I'm saying. So then we have Home by the Sea, and he does like the party tricks with the crowd. It is what it is. I'm not the kind of guy who likes to participate, and then he calls me out for not participating, so I feel bad. So I have to raise my hands. And I feel like I have to participate. So then we have this Fading Lights into Cinema Show into Afterglow, and so Fading Lights is different from 2007. So that's great. Fading Lights was truncated, and it's just too bad because it's kind of like that song revs up. It gets better and better and better as it goes on. And so to kind of cut it off as it starts getting good and then to go into Cinema Show, which was just the instrumental part of Cinema Show, into Afterglow, it's okay. I have no complaints. I know a lot of people don't like that Fading Lights was truncated. And to me, it's like you have Home by the Sea and you have Domino, which are these super long songs that have really long intros. That's where he does the party trick stuff. And it's like, cut those, like truncate those songs in some way. We don't need to dedicate 20 to 30 minutes of the set with Home by the Sea and Domino. People are going to disagree with this, but Home by the Sea and Domino and those long intros for those songs, truncate those so that we can hear Fading Lights a bit longer, in my opinion. I'm not complaining, by the way. I was happy. You can play whatever you want. Honestly, you could play Illegal Alien 20 times. I'd still go see them. But that moment, even though I was kind of complaining about this little trilogy here, that moment from Cinema Show into Afterglow, that was goosebumps. I think that was the first tear I had. I had many tears that night. I was also just happy to have my mask off. Yeah. So, I mean, that moment of when they went into Afterglow is so beautiful. So beautiful. I don't think it gets the love it really deserves. So it was great for them to play that. So then they had this like acoustic. I'm not giving any spoilers, right? Because they're done the tour. So sorry if I'm spoiling anything. Then it goes into That's All, this acoustic medley. And if I'm being picky, which I apologize for like critiquing, I kind of wish that I am being picky, aren't I? I kind of wish that like they all had acoustic guitars. Nick was playing a stripped down kit, which was really cool. Tony on a keyboard playing a piano. I wish they could have dressed that up a little bit. Like a lot of like indie rock bands will like fake a piano. Like you can roll like a really high quality Nord into like the frame of a piano. So like roll out like this old upright looking piano just so we feel like it is an acoustic set. Maybe even throw a carpet down like a coffee house set. So I just felt like this acoustic set, the music was awesome. It was really cool. But this acoustic set could have been more acoustic. So in the acoustic set was That's All, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, and Follow You, Follow Me. And the Lamb, I think, was truncated a little bit. Follow You, Follow Me was, I think, pretty much the normal length, and That's All was sort of. Again, I liked the way they did That's All and Follow You, Follow Me. Everyone really liked it. I also love when they do That's All live. You know, when they would dance to it and those solos. Oh man, when it gets into the solos and double time, I just love that tune. And Follow You, Follow Me, I really love that like flangey, phasey guitar. And I feel like we were stripped of that. But I got to see that in 2007, so I shouldn't really complain. So it was a nice little set. In fact, why not blow it out a bit more? Why not stand on the stage and do a couple more tunes acoustic? Because they kind of started off as like a folk band, right? So do a few more folk tunes. I think they could have really stretched that out. Lamb was great. I don't love when they do like, he sings like a couple lines of like 20 songs like they did in the 90 or early 90s tour on the We Can't Dance tour. So I wouldn't have wanted them to just sing a few lines of all their folk tunes, but they could have done a few more acoustic songs. What's nice is when the stagehands had to take down the acoustic set, the lights dropped and there was this gorgeous visuals on the screen. My favorite visual of the night, second favorite actually. I'll get to that in a second. These visuals and Duchess starts playing the CR78 beat of Duchess, and that's when anybody who saw the show, spoiler free, which wasn't me, I knew the set list beforehand. I couldn't help myself, but when that happened, people were going crazy. And so, yeah, that was a good moment. And it was so nice to hear Duchess, and it sounded really great. No Son of Mine was really great to have on the set as well. Firth of Fifth, and I Know What I Like, is my favorite live moment of Genesis. And it killed in that moment too. Like the way they do that instrumental and then the way it dies down into the intro beat and that big, long, like organ sound of I Know What I Like. I Know What I Like, I think, is my favorite Genesis song. I think it changes, but gosh, so that was beautiful. They can do that tune. The way they stretch it out on Seconds Out for like 15 minutes, they sort of did that here. I loved it. Domino, I've warmed up to Domino over the years, and so I really enjoyed it that night. The intros, again, you know, he's doing these funny intros. I know it's a tradition. He's been doing them for years, so a lot of people love to hear it. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with him kind of like repeating this intro all the time. But it's like, what other songs could you could have thrown in like another tune in that time that they were talking? So I'm not complaining. Throwing It All Away was one of my favorite moments, primarily because of the visuals, which was the cassette spines. And I grew up on cassettes, so I had a lot of the cassettes that they were showing. The spines of the cassettes was just so memorable and so beautiful. I really wish that they had closed out the first set with this, that they had, before the encore, that they had made this their last song, and then they came back for Tonight, Invisible Touch. A lot of bands will do 2 encores, or a lot of bands will come back and then play, like Bruce Springsteen does this, I think, and play like another 5 or 6 songs. And so had they ended with Throwing It All Away, which is a tearjerker moment, just a beautiful moment, and then showing the clips of the bands over the years with the spines of the cassette was so sentimental. I feel like they should have ended with that song. Everybody would have known there's an encore because they hadn't played Invisible Touch or I Can't Dance yet. So they could have come back and then played that intro to Tonight, into Invisible Touch, into I Can't Dance, and then into Moonlit Night, and Carpet Crawlers. So I feel like they could have done that. Or if they were really bold, they could have tried for 2 encores, which some bands do and can get away with it. So they could have left after I Can't Dance and then come back. And they had this intro of Dancing with the Moonlit Night that went into Carpet Crawlers, which is really beautiful. Good for them for doing that. I can't believe, I just don't understand why Peter Gabriel wouldn't have come on stage and done something at their last show, even the fact that he was there. And maybe, a lot of people say like he was in the band for such a short amount of time and that it would have almost been inappropriate or arrogant for him to kind of steal the spotlight a little bit. But I know for all the fans, like it would have just been so meaningful. And I think for him to have sung that part and then just stuck around for Carpet Crawlers, gosh, I would have melted if I known that happened, even just I known that happened. I get why they didn't, but it would have been nice. So I have a friend who works at the arena. He works in production and he works backstage. And I texted him and I said, dude, if you can get me a set list, I can die happy. And so he did. He went backstage and he's like, there's no sweat or blood on it. It's just a normal piece of paper. He brings it out to me. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm going to frame this. This is like one of my most cherished possessions. I don't have any rare Genesis or Phil Collins items other than a couple records. So I'm like, this is going to be, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. And so he brings out this set list and we chat for a bit and I'm sticking around at the sound table, just chilling out. So I get this set list and I fold it up. It was already folded and I put it in my pocket. As I'm about to leave, there's a few other people gathered around the sound table, just kind of leaving the arena and just taking their time to get out. And the sound man pulls up like a stack of set lists. I mean, maybe probably 20 or 30. They obviously have a printer behind stage and he's like printed like 20 of them off. And he's like, anybody want some set lists? And all these people, like even casual fans are just walking by like, oh, okay, sure. And they take the set list. So here, I thought I was getting like 1 of 5 set lists from the night. And I was like over the moon. I still am over the moon. Obviously, I've framed it in this IKEA frame. I was still over the moon, but it did take away from the treasuring of that moment a little bit from me when the sound guy was tossing them out left and right. A lot of people online ask if they're going to put this on DVD or if they're going to release the live recordings. I don't think there's any point in doing that. I'd rather them reissue the 2007 record. That sounds way better. It fills in much better shape. I don't really we have some bootlegs of this. I don't really think we need a DVD of this. I think it was pretty clear when they released the Last Domino box set that was in place of a live recording. I think the visuals would be cool of this. To me, it really wouldn't make sense for them to do it. Having said that, there is money in it. If they could upload one to YouTube, they could make a lot of money on YouTube ad revenue if they were to show a well-filmed show. Tony Banks, in a really recent interview, alluded to the fact that something is going to be released, that they have something from the night. So maybe he was misspeaking. Maybe he didn't know that they're not working on anything, but he actually implied that there is something in the works. So as I record this, we're in the summer of 2022. I would be looking out around Christmas time for something. I'm sure something. I mean, they had just finished their shows this year, the last show this year. So I still think we'll see something come out for the holiday season, for Record Store Day, maybe in November, or just for the holiday season, some sort of box set. I'm hoping. I don't care what it is. I'll buy it. I'm already going to pre-order it, whatever it is. I don't know if they'll do something with this. Live DVDs aren't really a thing anymore. In fact, I think because of the cost of manufacturing and the cost of distribution, all the people who get cuts, I actually think that the team would make as much money or more money by just uploading content to YouTube. And that's what you can see, that they're doing that a lot on the Phil Collins channels and on the Genesis channels. So they could upload just a taping of this show to YouTube and people would love that. So were you at the tour? What did you think about the set list? Were there songs that they were missing in your mind or songs that you've heard too much? Did you enjoy it? What did you think about Phil sitting or Phil singing? I loved it. I thought we were also very fortunate to have them do it again. I think it did nothing to hurt their legacy. And if they want to tour again and they're all, wheeled out there, I'll be the first in line to buy tickets. Thanks for watching.